Hey witches, if you are enjoying Waking Up the Witch, then you're definitely going to want to check out my magical shop, Moonbee's Wellness in Medford, Oregon. We have a curated collection of crystals, incense, sage, witchy books, tarot, oracle, and so much magic made locally here in the Rogue Valley. Whether you're just beginning your witchy path or you've been on this journey for quite a while, we have so many items to support where you are in your journey. And we ship anywhere in the US, so no need to be local. But Moonbees is more than just a shop. We are also a sacred space and supportive to your healing journey. I'm a Reiki master, and I also offer a lot of intuitive sessions, including past life readings and past life regression sessions. And all of this can be done virtually online, so I can help you no matter where you're at. Come visit us in Southern Oregon or follow Moonbees Wellness on Instagram and Moonbees_Medford on TikTok. And remember, magic's this way.
This episode of Waking Up the Witch is brought to you by Taylor Pickett Styles. I'm Taylor Pickett, and I am an intuitive hairstylist in Southern Oregon. I offer in-person services as well as online tutorials on how to care for your curly hair, how to properly shampoo your hair. If you're a hairstylist, I offer lots of education and one-on-one consulting on how to build your clientele and take care of your clients. If you're interested in any of these services, please reach out to me. There will be a link in the bio. I also offer organic hair care from Innersense Organic Beauty, and you can also buy that online through me, link in the bio, and also on my Instagram page, Taylor Pickett Styles. I also have a TikTok page if you're into just talking a little bit more deeply about things, going into deeper dives about hair care, self-love, and self-worth. My TikTok handle is Southern Oregon Curl. And don't forget, tame nothing, nourish everything. Enjoy this episode. I'm Taylor.
And I'm Amber.
And this is
Waking Up the Witch. We're your neighborhood witches. Each week, we talk about all things witchy and connect with other humans in a storytelling format about navigating life on this floating rock.
We're two curious ladies trying to understand the human experience. But while we do that, we think it's important to honor the people that lived here before us and honor the cultures and traditions that we're being inspired by.
This podcast is about waking up the witch, which means we are learning and growing every day. That being said, we are always open to feedback on how we can do better.
The views and opinions of our guests don't necessarily reflect the views and opinions of Waking Up the Witch. Now, let's go, ghouls. Hi, Amber.
Hi, Taylor.
How are you?
So good. How are you?
So good. Happy July.
July 1st today.
How did that happen?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, having this conversation today and talking about the astrology of this year and especially highlighting the first 7 months and how it's just going to be this flash, and now that we're here, that's really what it feels like. It's a lot, but it's gone by fucking fast. Also,
we're more than halfway through this year. I book in 12-week increments, and I'm booking people for October 1st.
That's so wild.
Somebody was like, don't you say that to me.
Well, I mean, my mind is already there because of everything that we're planning together and separately, and just we are literally looking forward into September and October right now for all the things to come, which means we have 2 to 3 months to make it all happen and come together, which is crazy.
I'm gonna have a 2-year-old.
You're gonna have a 2-year-old soon. I haven't even thought about that. That's putting us in November. That's wild. But she's practically 5 now.
So today was our first repeat guest, which totally loved that.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Very yeah, it was amazing. It was perfect. It was everything I needed.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you thought about that. And thought to reach out to her because
I wonder if
it's a
people
big full
that
circle.
understand like astrology feel better than everyone else.
I mean, for me personally, like, I'm not a dummy at astrology by any means, but I'm not, and I don't mean dummy, but you know what I mean? Like, um,
A
I'm
novice.
yeah, I'm not at the beginning of my astrology journey, but there's still so much that I don't know or understand yet. And like over the past 2.5 years doing this podcast, like from when we first got to talk to
Mm-hmm.
her to now, and then, following doing the moon rituals at work and all of these things that I've got to do, like my favorite thing is talking about the transits. And I think, and we've talked about this here before, but it really does just give me like peace of mind in some way. And like, change is constant, and we're not like, this moment right now is the only time we're going to have this moment. And so things are always shifting for the good and the bad sometimes. And like this year has really felt overwhelming, especially in the US, and I know in a lot of other places in the world, like it's been very heightened. And learning about the transits and like astrologically what we're going through and how it correlates to historical moments when these planets were there before, it gives me hope. It gives me peace, even though, like, what it's kind of saying is there's going to be a lot of destruction ahead of us still in a lot of ways, but like we always get to the other side. And it's like we are in this tower moment, and that, the building's burning, we're trying to get everyone out, but we can't make everyone leave, and so we have to like choose ourselves and get out. And when the building is crashed and down, we have this brand new foundation that we get to build. And is it the star that comes next in tarot? And it's like it's a really hopeful, beautiful card, and we just get to rebuild again. And that, to me, looking at the transits and learning about that, it's like, okay, we're all going through this collectively, we're all feeling this energy and this shift, but we will make it through. And there is literally that light at the end of the tunnel, and it's another transit. Someone who was it on here, someone said recently, and recently yesterday or recently a year ago, who knows, but that it's just a transit.
Oh, I don't know.
I feel like it was on the podcast. We talked to someone, and then we both were like, we gotta get that tattooed.
It's so
Because it's
good.
like, this is just a moment. Yeah, I think it was Alyssa
Oh,
actually.
well, of course.
Yeah, like
She's poetic.
it's just a transit. Like right now in this moment, it'll pass. This too shall
Mm-hmm.
pass. So yeah.
Yeah, I said it a million times. It just gives me peace that like whatever's happening now can't last forever, no
Yeah.
matter what it is. I also want to be so very, very fucking clear, whether you're new here or not. Fuck ICE.
Yes.
Fuck the orange geriatric insane criminal that is thinks he's in charge of this country. Free Palestine
Mhm.
and all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very, very clear. That's where we stand. We want there to be no mistakes or misunderstandings or any of that. We are pro immigrant. We're pro LGBTQ community plus.
Pro choice.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Do not be mistaken. Do not take it in any other way. That is where we stand. 10 toes down.
Mic drop.
Anyways, enjoy this episode. Maybe we can put some mental health resources in the caption as well, just because times are tough. We'll put a number in there for if you do notice ice in your area that you can report that, and maybe just a couple other resources that we think of before this comes out.
Yeah, and above all, take care of yourself. Know
And your
that
neighbors. It's
taking
not just about you either. So take care of yourself, but take care of your community and your neighbors and think about other people besides just you.
yes. And
Sorry.
also, though, you can't take care of everyone else if you're not taking care of yourself. And that's what I mean. Like, you have to fill
Yes,
your
I know
cup.
what you mean. I'm sorry.
No, you are so right.
But it's true.
100%. Like, we have to fucking care about other people than just ourselves. But if you are struggling and you feel like you're not doing enough and you have no other fucking energy to give, like, It's okay to fucking take a rest and to disconnect for a moment and
Fucking grass.
reclaim your own energy so that you can like find your strength again. And then you dust yourself off and you go out there and do what you can and know that you have a special, unique gift. All of us do, and it may not look the same as others. So don't be hard on yourself if you can't do what some people are doing. Find out what you can do and help your community. Enjoy.
Sorry, I was just thinking about like, yeah, how that at the end she just said the way we are all contributing is different. And so if you're not on the front lines, that might not be the way that you're fighting back. But like
Exactly.
find your way and do that.
Exactly. We've said this before. It could literally be like baking is what you are really good at, and you can help feed other people in your community or
Yeah.
offer delicious treats that like bring some fucking joy to the world because it's totally okay and necessary for us to also feel joy.
Yeah.
And I always think about, and it's
That
been
vibration's
circulating
higher.
it, of during the 80s when the AIDS were rampant, and you know they said that in the morning they were I'm totally butchering this, but they were with their fellow people watching them die and then out there on the streets raging for
They're
this to be
right.
taken seriously and their rights. And at night they were partying and having a good time and dancing. And it's like all things are necessary because this is how we move through the energy. This is how we move through the grief. This is how we
Make
create
community.
change, and community is more important than ever now. So allow yourself to feel it all and do what you can and dance.
Hell yeah. I love that. Enjoy.
Enjoy.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right, let's just get into it then.
Okay. Do you want me to do the breath?
Yeah, you do
Okay.
the breath.
Okay. I always forget what to say. Okay. All right. I just want to take a minute here to kind of ground in and connect with ourselves and the universe today. So please close your eyes if you can and take a big deep breath in and release. And a second breath in and release. And on this third breath, I just want you to think about how everything happens the way it's supposed to happen, and you are divinely protected no matter what, even if times feel hard. And we will all get through this together. So take a big, deep breath in and breathe out all the bullshit. Shake it out, let it loose. I would like to call in our guides at this time, our angels and ancestors, and anyone that wishes to be here with us today to bring in only the best information and bring light to this climate and everything that's kind of going on now, and just really help us join together as a collective of humanity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Episode maybe 3 or 4 this season. Amber and I tried to do some research on kind of like all the transits of the outer planets and everything happening that is divinely guided in like what the chaos is of America, but also the entire world
world.
right now. And I think the fact that we all have TVs and social media makes it even more apparent everything we're going through. And so we brought on an old guest, our second guest, actually, our first repeat guest, because she is an expert in astrology and she also is paying attention to the politics and the climate and everything that's going on. So please reintroduce yourself.
Thank you, ladies, for having me. I'm
Thank
so
you.
excited to be here. I wish that, the conversation could be a little different than what it is.
Next time, you can come
But we
back.
have to we have to sometimes really take some of these, like, spiritual concepts and, like, see things from that lens, but also, like, tie it to real life. Like, okay, what's
Yeah.
actually happening and how is this influencing world events? And, for anyone who doesn't remember me or, would like to be introduced, my name is Danielle Rosado. I am an intuitive astrologer, mainly help, I used to be considered just a business astrologer, but I've noticed that
Mm,
just on my own path, I help all people with their life paths and their big life transitions and the decisions that they're making. And that could be within business, and that could also be with pretty much all facets of life. And when it comes to, like I said, tying astrology with real world events, this is actually how I first really was introduced to astrology. It was something that
Amazing.
attracted me to why does the world work the way it works and why
mhm.
things happen when they happen, and just some of the very obvious, almost like so predictable ways that
100%.
astrology can be expressed and manifested in real time. So, as I've been continuing as a professional astrologer, it's definitely something that I've noticed more and more on the nose to the day when something
Incredible.
is to happen. I'm like, wow, okay, this world is actually so, like you said, divinely orchestrated, but also we have so much data to back this up of like
Which is
why this,
crazy. It's
yeah,
crazy.
It
yeah.
what's wild to
So,
me is, like, we always hear growing up is history repeats itself,
uh-huh.
and, like, now as a witchy older woman, like, this is the evidence, this is the map of which, history does repeat itself on some level, and the stars and the planets really are orchestrating a lot of that.
I love
Exactly. And
it.
it's a mirror. To me, that's what it feels like. It's just a reflection
Yeah.
of what's already happening. So you can see that in your own personal life, but then you can also see it like on a world collective level of like, well, this
Mhm.
has already been building up and then they all unfold within one another. And so it's not like they're working in separate ways. They're all working
Yeah.
together. And just this year, there were so many moving parts to it. It was
Yeah.
definitely historic year. We're still in it. It's not over.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So wild. Well, yeah, dive in and like help the listeners. And again, this is Waking Up the Witch. So like really um bringing it down to
As
basics
simplified as
and
possible.
helping people to understand as they're listening like, well, what does Jupiter mean and what does Jupiter in Cancer mean, and what does Cancer mean? Like really like bridging all those pieces to tell the full story. But
Yeah.
yeah, if you just like what's on your heart, what are you paying attention to, what are you noticing, and what does it mean when these outer generational planets shift signs?
Yeah, for sure. So, like I said, 2025, it was definitely a historic year because there is going to be so many back to back ingresses with these outer planets. And we've already seen, like with Pluto, right? Like
Mhm.
Pluto entering Aquarius and then going into Cap and then entering Aquarius, like that little back and forth dance it was doing for the last couple years. That was officially like, I'm here now, starting at the end of 2024, pretty much
Mhm.
around this. Basically, it was what, a week or 2 weeks after the election when,
Yeah.
he came into office. And so I feel like that to me is, of course, where it really started to break open because
Yeah.
now it's like we're progressing with this transit. This is not something that we are just going to like do this little retrograde back and forth dance. It's like,
Mhm.
no, like we're here now. And for the
We're in this
next 20
energy.
years, what's going to happen with that? And I feel like I will be honest, like, I was also one of these astrologers that felt and I'm still very hopeful, like, I'm an optimistic person by nature. I think I
Mhm.
just love to see the bright side of things and try to, like,
Same.
you know, create a sense of hope for an Aquarius transit, and especially when it comes to people coming together and like, being humanitarian
Yeah.
around that.
Mhm.
But we also have to recognize what Pluto is. Pluto is
Yeah.
is is a shadow of destruction. And,
Yeah.
so much of the shadow work of, division, right? Like where it's
Yeah.
like, okay, we're also working with Aquarius, which is a large collective. This is all the people. This isn't just like one group at a
Yeah.
time. Like we're talking about everyone as a whole and how, if we're thinking about everyone as an individual, right? And we're seeing that everyone's comes from different backgrounds, different religions, different conditioning, different, all the different places, just the environment that they grew up in. They're, to me, it's like how they were shaped to who they are, and also like how people are going to continue to evolve with this transit. Like I want to just really speak to that because Pluto is also going to be a lot of the deep shadow work around who am I, a part of this collective, not only my role a part of this, but also like who am I when it comes to like who I was shaped to be? And like that's where the
Mhm.
rebellion is going to show up, where
Mm.
people are like, hold on, I don't actually believe that. Wait, like I see it from a new point of view. And I feel like people's like identities are going to continue to shift as they are understanding like their own political
Yeah.
values, and what they believe to be true. And, you know,
And is that a like characteristic trait of Aquarius? Is like rebellious and kind of like what are some other characteristics of Aquarius?
Yeah. So Aquarius to me, this is like I said, that there's both. There's going to be the individual of like, who are you in your own unique, expression, like your own self, that like whatever like quirkiness that you are and whatever like interest that you have, like that's you as your own person. But then there's also the collective part of Aquarius where it's like who you are as a part of a society. So
Okay.
if you see this, it's like, okay, I know that, Aquarians do have that rebellious nature, but some of them can break free from conditioning that they were once taught, right? So I see it as a sign of like rebellion because they are trying to liberate themselves from
Yeah.
something that they feel is like limiting them or categorizing them or labeling them into one thing. So this is where there's so much nuance if we're seeing it from a political standpoint, because it's like there are people who can see things from so many points of view, right? It's like they may not want to label themselves as conservative versus liberal versus Democrat. Like they may see things from multiple sides. And this is where I feel there's this oneness that Aquarians do like to create, right? It's like
Mhm.
I want to feel like, we can all come together and like we can all coexist, right? And we can
Mhm.
accept each other for each other's differences and like we don't have to
That
judge each other.
authenticity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I do think that there's also that, like, but I'm going to fight for what is right. And I'm not afraid to speak
Mhm.
truth, and like just the justice warrior that like Aquarians can also
Mm.
be, where it's like, I also believe things that may not make sense to everybody. And I need to, just kind of stand in my truth with that.
Mhm.
So, again, I think that like that's where it started. That's really what started, in my opinion, 2025, and then
Yeah,
it
I
just
agree.
kept going with
Ugh.
all all of the other transits that happened this year. Um
We're
when I
all
was
that emoji with the, like, spiraling eyeballs.
the melting emojis,
Yeah.
literally, to me, when I was preparing my clients for the year ahead, which felt
Mhm.
really difficult to do this year because it was a very unprecedented year. It's
Yeah.
like
Wow.
I kept explaining, basically, like, don't make any set plans, like, where, in the beginning of the year, like, just try to remain as open and flexible as you can, because
Yeah.
if you try to like plan your entire year out, even the quarter, if you just try to plan even the next 3 months, like things potentially will change. And like we're
Yeah.
going to just have to accept that things aren't going to go exactly in order the way that you
Yeah.
may be perceiving it to.
'Cause all
And
we're
so,
doing literally is changing all year with all of those planets. All these planets are changing, so therefore we too are changing in real time all the time.
the whole time. And
Yeah.
I think that that's where we're kind of here now, right? The 7th month, it's
Yeah.
July. I was really preparing everyone for the first 7 months of the year. I was like,
Mhm.
"Listen, the first 7 months are going to be like rapid fire." Like,
Yeah, it
in the
feels that way.
beginning, it was the Mars retrograde, and
Yeah.
that's how we started the year. And I think that if we're looking at that perspective, for those who don't know, Mars retrogrades are definitely the most gnarliest times when it comes to retrogrades, right? Like Mercury retrograde doesn't stand a chance with shit like that. Like Mars is
Yeah.
conflict and it's, fighting, it's defensiveness. It's also a planet that like cuts things out. So since it was Mars retrograde in Cancer, I noticed that a lot of families were separating and
Wow.
people
Divorce your
fighting.
MAGA husbands.
Yeah, literally, literally. It was like, I'm not ever talking to my parents ever again. And I'm like,
Yeah.
here's Mars retrograde, right?
Oh, I feel
Because
Wow.
that.
Interesting. Spot
it's like
on.
there's gonna be a severing of ties. Like, that's
Yeah.
what Mars does. It severs ties. And I think that we like, if we think of it from, like, a practical standpoint, Mars can, like, represent weapons or, like, knives or it's
Mhm.
surgery, right? Like, it's like there's certain things that when we see it from that point of view, we're like, "Yeah, it, like, cuts things out," right?
Yeah.
And so with that, because it was in Cancer, there was such an emotional turmoil to that energy related to like how we feel around like our own relationship with each other, like how we desired to see the world to be like from a nurturing, loving, like can't we all just like get along kind of thing. But then we also
Mhm.
had to recognize that Mars retrograde was sharp. And it was like, if you are kind of playing on, it's almost like I'm gonna give an example. It's like the difference between a Cancer as like its sensitive, emotional, nurturing side and it's like protective, don't fuck with me. Like,
Mhm.
I'm willing to like take out my crab claws kind of thing, right? It's like
Yeah.
there's two sides of that. And we have to see that the Mars retrograde in Cancer in the beginning of the year was like almost this like sacred rage within like women and mothers. And like you're thinking about the immigration, things that were happening.
Yeah. Chills.
Mothers separated from their children. And like, all of that to me was only creating more of that like anger with women that were like, no, like we're fighting back and we're not going to like allow this. Like this is wrong. Like you can't separate
Mhm.
families like that. And so it was the anger was coming from an emotional space, but it
Mhm.
was also very valid. And again, it's like almost this thought that like everyone should be this nurturing, everyone should be this thoughtful, everyone should be thinking this way. But then we realized there's actually separation with their viewpoint of it. And so if we see it from that point of view, again, it brings us back to everyone has a different upbringing, everyone has a different family,
Mhm.
everyone has a different environment and home that they were brought up in. So if we are looking at it from that point of view, then, it's like, it's not to say can we really fault them, but it's like they're only going off of what their parents are telling them is true and what they're like
Yeah.
their community, that their church and these people are telling them is right versus wrong. Like,
So much
so
conditioning.
exactly, it's all the
Yeah.
conditioning.
Yeah.
It's all the conditioning. So I think that that Mars retrograde really it showed us a lot, and that
What month
again,
was that?
that was January and February. It actually technically started in December,
Mhm.
but it was in Cancer starting January and February. And I think that
Mhm.
that's, when this man was inaugurated. And I noticed that a lot of people were also just like going within, like doing the Cancer thing, like just really going within its
Yeah.
shell. Like I took
That was a
time off.
hard time.
It was just a really rough time
I
emotional.
also love that you won't say his name. Fuck that.
I
This
genuinely do not.
man.
I know. This that
I love it. Yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, I
I think
but yeah.
thinking like reflecting back to that time felt really scary, and it's like, do we stay in America even, or
Mm.
do we like, I don't know, we went to Europe for to get out of the country, and then it was like could we just do this? But then it's like whatever transit happened next, it was like, no, we gotta fucking fight.
Yeah.
Like we
Mhm.
are, this is our country. Go
Yeah.
fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's also the part with if you think of Cancer as the home, right? A lot of
Mhm.
Mhm.
people were reflecting on what move am I meant to make around my home life, right? Do I
Yeah.
feel safe here? Thinking about Cancer as a sign of safety and like, that
Mhm.
chakra energy that like
Ugh,
you can actually like feel like this is my sanctuary and like no one's bothering me. And I
feeling
think that
secure.
that's a huge part of when I saw the year from like an overview point of view, it was like, okay, the first couple of months are definitely going to bring a lot with that Mars retrograde. However, there's going to be refuge, there's going to be hope, there's going to be just like this more opportunity for things that may have like not been solved during that Mars retrograde that can get solved, once Jupiter entered Cancer a few months later.
Mm.
So I
Mhm.
I I recognize that even though it was, like, harsh and it was something that felt like we were defeated and there was, like, not
Yeah.
much that we can do about it, I had a feeling that, like, once Jupiter entered Cancer, which was just in June, that was gonna open up whatever we needed to resolve from that Mars retrograde just a few months prior.
So cool.
And I think that this is the part where what you're discussing around like travel, am I meant to be like moving and like leaving? I do feel like that's where people are preparing for that now because Jupiter is a planet of travel and it is like
Oh.
about international energy, so it being in Cancer, I do feel like a lot of people are leaving. And, if it's not necessarily for like a permanent thing, I do feel like people
Mhm.
are like branching and seeing what they can do to, if they needed to relocate even just for like that refuge, like I said, that they're
Mhm.
thinking that way.
Also, I mean, it's horrible, but people are being taken from here also. So they're moving whether they like chose that or not.
Mm. Mhm.
Mhm. Mhm. Exactly.
Yikes.
Yeah. And I think that when we're looking at this from, because of course I kind of went backwards, but we're seeing like what we're in right now, like especially with Jupiter now in Cancer. Um, this energy, like Jupiter, like I said, can bring hope, it can bring faith and like something that's bigger than ourselves. Like it's also to me a planet of like it's going to expand whatever it touches. So it's like if it's going to expand the
Mm.
Cancer energy, then to me that's like okay, I'm really going to focus on the people in my life that I am going to hold close to my heart, the people that I do care about. And like, it's again that protective energy. Like, I'm going to
Mhm.
protect these people at all costs. And like, what does that mean? But I think that if I see this from the beginning parts of when Jupiter first entered Cancer, it is and still kind of is lifting off, right, as we speak, was in a square, which is a very tense, challenging aspect to Saturn. And Saturn was in Aries, and that's also a new planet
Mhm.
ingress that we experienced this year. And Saturn is the government, it's authority, it's the law, it's the rules. And that being an Aries, we can now see that as a perspective of, you know, war and,
Mhm.
this idea around it's like a very to me Aries is like a very patriotic like sign.
Mm.
It's very like for your country. Like to me, like when I think of Aries, I think of like the people who have like flags like on the back of their cars and like, wear like the military gear. And like I think of that. So it's like we see it from that point of view where it's like, okay, Jupiter did ingress into Cancer. It created this like new, beautiful, exalted transit where like there can be good things that come from this and at the same time, it's still fighting with what is being told is the law and what the restriction is and like what the borders are and like all of that.
And
So,
so Jupiter, because it's an amplifier, it's typically known to be lucky, but even with that energy, it's also amplifying that
mhm,
more negative
exactly.
energy too, correct? Yeah.
Absolutely. It's gonna expand whatever transit it's in. So
Mhm.
if it's gonna be in a square, then it's gonna just really amplify that energy
Okay.
that much more. So again, like it's not to say that squares can't be worked with. You know what I mean?
Of
Like of
course. Yeah.
course, like there's positives to everything, but it's still gonna feel like there's something restricting that energy from really being expressed in the way that it wants to.
Mhm.
Does that make
Amazing.
sense? Yeah.
Yes.
And thankfully, we're lifting off of that, you know,
I
I will say.
also like, can you talk about how like rare all these transits are and like how
Yeah,
often stuff like this does happen?
Mhm.
Because like
yeah.
maybe somebody that doesn't understand astrology thinks stuff like this changes all year long every year, but that's not what's happening.
Absolutely. Yeah. The reason why I call this a historic year is because so many of these planets have not changed signs in a really, really long time. So when we're looking at just one planet, right, they're all on different cycles. And so if you see like a planet like Saturn, for instance, like Saturn is on a 29.5 year cycle, meaning it's going to take 29.5 years to return back to the same sign that it's going into, right? So Saturn entering Aries, that hasn't happened since the 90s, right? Like we
Mhm.
haven't experienced that. So with these outer planets, they move slower. You know,
Yeah.
like how far away they are from the sun is how long it's going to take to orbit around the sun. So Saturn is like 29.5 years. So this is where when you're talking about history repeating itself, like you can look back to
Yeah.
like the last time it was there. And so you can start to collect some data of like what was happening around that time.
Mhm.
And the same with Neptune, right?
Yeah,
Like
I really want to talk about that one.
because we have to see this is where when people are looking at one thing, you have to look at the other, right? It's like
Uh-huh.
I was describing, you know, Saturn entering Aries is not going to be a normal Saturn entering Aries type of transit. Like
Yeah.
it's going to be meeting with Neptune, which is something that we have never experienced Neptune and Aries in this lifetime.
Mhm.
Um, so when Neptune entered Aries towards that was like literally during the eclipse at the
Yeah.
end
It
of
was like
March. Like
March. Yeah.
March was probably the craziest month that we'll ever
Yes.
experience.
Mhm.
Those types of things are rare. Okay. So
Yes.
like when you're talking about like why is it rare? It's because like these types of things happening back to back like that's just not as common. Like usually like they'll be a little bit more spaced out, you know?
I'm kinda
And
getting this visual of, like, if your soul and, like, a bunch of different lifetimes that your soul experienced all met up on the same plane at the same time. It's like
mhm,
that it doesn't happen or, like, on a physical, tangible way, that
yeah.
it's, like, it's that rare that all of these planets are happening at the same time.
Yeah,
God,
it's really
March was
interesting.
crazy.
Like, I mean, I've been doing this since it's probably been like 6 years now, 7 years now. But, you know, there's astrologers that have been studying these years, like 2020,
Yeah,
2025, for
and, like,
many, many
looking
years.
far into the
Like,
future, like,
yeah, like
seeing
there's
that
astrologers
this
that
is
have been
gonna be a
like,
big year.
I knew it
Give me
was going to be a
chills.
big year. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's pretty phenomenal because, you know, Neptune has not been in Aries since the late 1800s. So again, like this is where when you're seeing what's happening, a lot of it we can look back in history and be like, oh, okay, that was when, you know, the Revolutionary War was happening and that was
Mhm.
when, you know, like we can understand it from that point of view, but we also have we're just in such a different modern
Yeah.
time now.
Mhm.
So it almost feels like incomprehensible of like, well, what does
Yeah.
that actually now mean
Yeah.
since we are just such a different evolution of humanity?
And
And
technology and our
Mhm.
accessibility to seeing everything all the time, 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
it's so overstimulating, and I
Yeah.
think that's another part of let's just talk about that from a Neptunian perspective. You know, Neptune, I can describe it in so many ways, but even just from that point of view, when you're saying like we have access to all of this
Mhm.
information, Neptune is video, right? Neptune is where like it's like we're seeing things like a movie, you know, like we're literally watching it in real
Yeah.
time. And then Neptune is also where we are like disassociating. We are
Mhm.
literally not in our bodies
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
it feels so overstimulating and like it's just too much to we're looking at war footage in real time, and we've never experienced that. You know what I mean? Like these types of
Mhm.
things would be like in textbooks growing up, but we didn't actually see it that way. So I think that's another part of this wave that we're in where Saturn being with Neptune, Saturn is also like this reality check. It's very sobering. It's like, we have to face this. We can't ignore it.
Mm.
And Neptune is like escapism. This is too much for me. This is also where the bypassing, spiritual bypassing is coming through. A
Yeah.
lot of
Mhm.
people are just ignoring it. Or it's just a survival instinct where it's like, I
Yeah.
actually can't like access all of the emotions from what I'm experiencing because my subconscious mind like literally is like I have to
I'll
sometimes
die. Yeah.
I have to be on autopilot a little bit
Yeah.
because I can't do it all. So I think that this is where Saturn and Neptune is definitely going to one of the things that's coming up for me is like the mental health aspect
Yeah.
of the next generations, you know, including us.
Yeah.
Um, where we have to like devote ourselves to actually doing the inner work around the trauma of these times because we can't just keep going. There's
Mhm.
parts of it that Aries can be the burnout of just like us just continuing and like taking new action and doing all these new things. And it's like also the fighting that we're doing as a country, as a collective. It's like we can't keep going
Yeah.
without truly committing to ourselves in some way. And to me, that's the mental health aspect of Neptune, where it's like, okay, we also there may be a lot of people, and I know a lot of people are losing faith, you know, like they're
Yeah.
Yeah.
losing that sense of, well, what is happening? And like, is there a God? And like, you know, what does
Yeah.
this even mean? And like, are we all just gonna die? And like, there's real,
Yeah.
Yeah.
there's real life shit that's happening because
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't mean to sound like I'm not making it a joke, but it's like if
No, we have to
collectively
laugh so we don't cry. It's fine.
exactly, like,
Yeah.
if we're all collectively crashing out, it's like, how are we supposed to, like, rebuild, like,
Yeah.
so in a way that feels strong? Because that's where Aries is, like, strength and courage to keep going,
How
Mhm.
and
long is this transit?
I feel like the Saturn Neptune thing, this is where it gets interesting because it started this way back in April, right? Like
Mhm.
beginning like end of March, beginning of April have sorry, it's sorry. Saturn and Neptune together started at the end of May. But Neptune entered Aries in the end of March and the beginning of April. So when we see from that point of view, it's like this is actually only temporary for this year. So from
Okay.
May until September are the only times that Saturn and Neptune in Aries are going to be together
Okay.
this year. And then they're going to meet officially in February of 2026.
Okay.
So
Due to
that's
retrogrades and stuff, I
yes,
assume. Okay.
exactly. So what's going to happen is that's also a part of this year that's kind of like hard to predict because a lot of these planets like Saturn, Neptune, even Uranus, you know, like these planets are only going to be in this new sign for a temporary time and then they're going to retrograde back into
Yeah.
the sign they were before and then they're going to come back full time starting next year. So I think that that's also where it
Mhm. We're
sucks to
just
see
getting
it
like a
that way.
taste right now
We're
of
just
like
getting a
what the future
foreshadowing.
looks like. Yeah.
Exactly.
Really.
And then
Exactly.
how long will that last? Do you know?
Uh, I mean, Saturn does move slow, but it doesn't move that slow. Like Neptune's going to park itself. Like Neptune is
Yeah.
pretty much there, and Saturn will move on, you know, going until like March and like the spring. Like it's going to keep
Yeah.
going. But I will say that, like, you know, astrologers are trying to see the similarities of like, okay, what's the data that's starting? What's starting now? Like the big, beautiful bill and like all these things,
Yeah.
right? Okay, what's happening now in
Yeah.
terms of law, in terms of like what the government is saying, and then what's gonna like happen in February when we return back to this because that's where like it's being shown even more with this man in office because it's like he is going back on his word a lot,
Yeah.
right?
Oh
Like
yeah.
He's a
he's like he's
fucking
doing things
psycho
and he's taking
liar.
it back and he's doing things and he's taking it back and it's like that's even more so where I'm like, this is so like it's not to say that it's not even real, but it like
For
literally feels
sure.
it feels like, okay, I'm not no one knows. It's so
Yeah.
what
Well, and
actually
that's, like,
is more.
probably very calculated too, like, even
Oh,
though
yeah.
he seems so fucking stupid sometimes, like, it's really to get us so worked up and, like, fearful that, like, we all get to that burnout. We all just become so exhausted that we're like, "I just need a fucking break," so that now all of the Wizard of Oz shit can
Well,
happen.
he also likes to create chaos and then say never mind and pretend like he fixed the problem that he
Yeah.
created. That
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
very common. Okay, so I do want to like talk a little bit. So I feel like in my life there's so much like beautiful magical things going on and in my community and like the people that I love are doing so many beautiful things, but then it's like but the collective is suffering, and so can you talk about, like, that a little bit? Why maybe it feels like that? Because
Yeah.
everyone I know is, like, okay, maybe not, like, financially thriving, but, like, in so many beautiful ways, everyone's, like, businesses are thriving and, like, everyone's feeling really creative and, like, so much magic is
Yeah.
happening around me, but then there's so much suffering everywhere
Yeah,
too.
that has absolutely
Yeah.
been happening to me also
Yeah.
Yeah.
since December, actually, which is kind of crazy, where I'm like, all of a sudden this fire has hit and the creativity won't stop and the ambition and the drive for, like, what's available
Yeah.
to create personally
Same.
within myself and my community,
Uh-huh.
uh, it feels, like, huge that it's like it's on this teeter-totter of, like, I have to keep going, but also, like, let me stop for a moment and have a panic attack because everything else around me in the world is fucking scary and on
And
fire.
am I
Yeah.
allowed to be happy
And
when
yeah,
there's so much suffering? Like, am I allowed to keep thriving and posting on Instagram and like trying to show the magic in the world, like while people are being fucking stolen from their homes or
yeah,
their children's graduations or whatever, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
Where's
Well,
Libra right now? Like,
I was gonna
or
say
what's in Libra? Like, because that just feels like, having that balance to me.
honestly, to me, you're describing like the Gemini energy, like the duality
Also,
Mhm.
yeah,
life.
yeah,
It's like we have to see there's always going to be, unfortunately, suffering and things that are happening simultaneously as miracles are happening and really beautiful things are happening. And I
Yeah.
think that that's another really good thing that we can see from, let's say, the point of view of Jupiter that did enter Cancer. It was in Gemini prior to that, so it's like
mhm.
you see it from that point of view. It's like we were holding two
Interesting.
multiple different things all at the same time. And
Yeah,
um I do sense that what's coming through for me is like, because let's say we were just talking about Saturn and Neptune in Aries, and this is a rebirth in a lot of ways. This is a new beginning, a new cycle, especially for like who you're becoming. Like, it's very
Yeah.
much connected to the self.
I
And
feel
when
that.
you're talking about the drive and you're talking about the creativity and like, just all of this beautiful, like, okay, I'm feeling inspired and I'm like taking action. I'm like, let's freaking go. Like,
mhm,
that is where, when we're seeing it from a Saturn and Neptune point of view, it's like, as your own person, especially people like us, spiritual like teachers and healers and guides, like, this is our time. Like, this is actually exactly why we are here. It
mhm,
sucks,
mhm,
but like, this is when I think of every soul has like its own sense of purpose, and like, especially as leaders in this space right now, it's like we are on a mission right
yeah,
now, and it's not to the outside world, and like what's actually happening to me is just going to continue to get you that much more hungry to not give up and
Oh,
to not
fuck
like
yes.
not completely fold over and like be when I say weak, I mean like, like we're not going to consider what's happening as like, oh, okay, I'm just going to completely crash out, and like pretty much what they want. Like, they want control right
Yeah.
now,
It's also
like.
Aries, so where's that like feminine rage and the like fire and the like go, you know?
Exactly. And I think that's the part where, like, we all have our own. I've been saying this for years, probably since my Saturn return, that is an Aquarius. Like, that was back in 2020, right? Like, I have been tuning into the idea that, like, we all have different roles in how we
mhm,
are playing a part of this healing and like when people say new earth and like what we're actually trying to create,
Mhm.
right? And what I mean by that is like not everyone is going to fight back the same. Not everyone is going to like, I don't know, it feels like we almost like put all this expectation of like everyone needs to be doing the same things and
Of
protesting
course.
in the
Yeah.
same ways and like resisting these things in the same ways. And it's like, to me, I actually don't believe that. I
We
believe
all
that
have different gifts that are
we
going
all
to
have
benefit the collective.
exactly, and
Yeah.
it's like, some people may be the nurses, like,
Yeah.
during these times, some people may just be, like, the caretakers for, like, children or for the
Mhm.
elders during this time. It's like we have to remember, like, we all have our own different ways of, like, how we're meant to kind of input something. So even, like,
Yeah.
something like this, talking on a podcast and, like, sharing our point of view and, like, doing it from an astrological point of view, like, that's our gift. That's not
Yes.
something that we can expect everyone is gonna understand or everyone is gonna,
Be able to do.
mm, want to listen to, Like, so we
Yeah.
have to kinda remember it from that point of view. When you're speaking, I'm like, please, like, keep going when it comes to, like, what you're being inspired to create, whether that's art, whether that's, like, a service, whether that's a healing circle, or just, like, an open space for people to share, like, what they're feeling, because
Yeah.
that's your role right now. It's not meant to be shamed at all, I think, like, it's a
Mhm.
Totally.
human thing, feel like, "Should I be doing more, or is it
Yeah.
wrong for me to
Not
be
doing enough.
celebrating things right
Yeah.
now?"
Totally.
But I do sense that, your integrity with, like, what's happening comes through things like this, where you're not completely ignoring it or not. I love it.
This is so good. Thank you so much, Danielle. Like,
Good, I'm
it's just such
here.
a good conversation. It's so funny because I keep thinking about, like, how many times I've been in a room with people I don't know very well and, like, how awkward it can feel sometimes because it's usually fairly surface conversation or it's just
Mhm.
hard to, like, go deep. You don't know if you can go deep with people, and it never feels like that on this podcast, and that just feels like such a gift, like, no matter who we're talking to, whether we know them well or not, it's like, we're not awkward in a room with people,
Good.
you know?
That's all you, that's your energy, right? Like, you're attracting people who can, like, meet you at that depth, which is
Yeah,
beautiful.
and the depth is like that just feels so good. I have
Yes.
Pluto and Scorpio, so I think, like,
Yeah.
that's where I'm comfortable.
Yes, yes. I'm the same
Dive
way.
deep with me, babe.
I genuinely cannot do surface level. It's like
No, not in the world we live in anymore either.
yeah, for
Just
sure.
to be able to understand on this level, you know.
Yeah. It's definitely been it's funny that you're saying, like, I don't even say his name, like, I just there's so many,
Yeah.
like, when I say politically correct, like, there's just it's just so
Uh-huh.
so interesting, like, what comes up when you're like, "Okay, like, am I allowed to, like, just be aggressive with it?"
Oh, yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
just like, this is the climate.
Well, and Pluto and Aquarius, like, we have to be authentic in that way. And
Exactly.
if you feel rageful about it, like, let it out.
Mhm. 100%.
Because yeah, it's gotta come out somehow.
Yes.
Okay, so
I've been thinking about this, like, a lot and just, like, in a reflective way. You mentioned something about, quote, unquote, "new earth," and
Mhm.
this is just something so fascinating to me because I remember back in, like, pandemic era,
mhm.
and we're all, like, on our phones, watching all of our favorite people on social media because that's just where we all were, and, hearing a lot of people talk about the new earth, and I remember it got to a point, like, because it was also clashing with, like, the political nature of things and the pandemic and all of this misinformation and, like, it got to this point for me where I'm like, a lot of the spiritual girlies are kind of going towards
Off
the
the
red
rocker?
hat a little
Yeah.
bit that, like,
Yeah.
I had to stop following some
Yes.
people,
Mhm.
and because I was just like, I it sucks because there's some things that, like, I find that are valuable, but, like, you were kind of going a little culty for me that, like, okay, even hearing New Earth for a little bit felt a
I
little,
agree.
like, icky to me.
I agree.
However, trying to rack my brain of that time, like, okay, they were talking about this time in the future, like, there was, like, a date, and it was almost like, the Mayan calendar, the world's gonna end kind of energy that they were bringing to it.
Mhm.
But now that, like, we are in 2025, I'm like, "Wait, was this the time though that they were talking about? Because I remember it was so far away feeling that like I erased the time, but I'm almost wondering like because now to me new earth means like this new energy that we're creating, like it's not this higher dimensional energy necessarily, but it is um
A collective
a
shift of
collective shift,
energy.
yeah, and how we're thinking and how we're changing and what we're moving towards, and like seeing that he is in office again, which was like a huge fucking shocker
Yeah.
to so many of us. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, we have to shift what that means for us. He's gonna fuck this up so bad that like there's no choice but to make a new one.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
so,
And to come together.
and yeah,
And, like, coming together, I think nothing brings people together more than, like, grief and
yeah,
hardships and, like, survival almost. And so, like, if there's anything good coming from all of this, it's that it's gonna be burnt down to the ground and have to
and we
be
have to
rebuilt.
rebuild, yeah. So I'm
Amen.
just curious, like, I can sense that like New Earth means something different to you than what,
Yeah.
in 2020, what the spiritual
Cures.
girlies were,
Yeah.
yeah, the cures were heading towards. So yeah, I just, from an astrologer standpoint, like, what are your
Mhm.
thoughts?
Absolutely. I think this is just tying back to the beginning of the Pluto and Aquarius conversation, where it was like there
Mm-hmm.
was a sense of hope. Because I remember I made a post when this man won, and I was like, damn. I was like, the astrology of 2025 was not going to change no matter who won,
Yeah.
but direction of like how things could have went
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
it comes to like, the progression of where we could be versus like what
Mm-hmm.
you're discussing, where it's like, oh, well, this obviously had to happen for us to like really see how
Yeah.
corrupt it is and how
Oh
much we
yeah.
need to like change things from the inside out in order to like, to me, like think about, if Harris did win, like if she
Yeah.
won,
Mm-hmm.
to me, that very much could have been that new earth energy. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but when I say new earth, I'm very much on the same page with you
Yeah.
ladies because
Grounded.
like it's to me, I don't mean to like I'm not a judgmental person whatsoever, but I agree. Like there's some
I
like
am,
just
it's fine.
the toxic positivity and like the spiritual bypassing when it comes to
Yeah.
certain things.
Exactly.
Like, I can't,
Conspiracies, like, oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Like I can't like just be living in like the 12D. Like that's not the
No,
type of person I am. Like I'm a
It's also
very
not the point.
our
We're
yeah.
on
souls chose
Earth.
Earth for the
Yeah.
Earth experience. Like being spiritual is part of being this soul body,
And
but like
human.
we are also supposed to be fucking here living this human experience too.
Mhm.
Yes. But I will say, with Neptune entering Aries, one of the things that I was picking up with that was a huge spiritual awakening for the collective.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I think that that's the part where, okay, let's look at it from this point of view. Neptune was in Pisces since 2012. So when you're talking about the Mayan
Okay.
calendar
Oh,
ending,
that's hilarious because that was 2012, right?
Yeah.
I remember everyone
There's
saying that's when the
still astrology based to this.
Mhm. Neptune is the home, planet of Pisces. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, and it's a very like liminal space, right? It's a sign that represents, things that are closing out. It's almost like a womb that we're
Mm.
entering to like be reborn again to enter Aries.
Oh.
So when we see that point of view, like Neptune, that was pretty much on its last degree, the last legs
Oh yeah.
of Pisces right before it entered Aries. This is where I noticed a lot of like that cult energy was coming alive, and
Uh-huh.
it was hard to discern. Like you said, you were like, hold on, got blindsided by certain people when you
Yeah.
notice like some people are preaching new earth or preaching, whatever. And then it's
Mhm.
like, but they're literally voting for the opposite or,
Yeah.
I called out like all the women who say that they're here to help women and empower women, and then they're voting for the opposite. And I was like,
Yeah.
what the hell are you girls doing? So the point is that I noticed a lot of that delusional Pisces, a lot of the brainwashing, a lot of the
Yeah.
like, the cult like mentality that was happening. And then I was like, Neptune's going to enter Aries, and a lot of people are going to have identity crises because they're going to be waking
Yeah.
up from
Yeah.
these cults, and they're really going to have like, who am I now
Yeah.
without that belief, or
Yeah.
what do I believe in, right?
Crazy.
And so I think that's the part where Neptune can really, like, when we're talking about reprogramming our
Yeah.
subconscious mind, to me, like, it's like that's the healing of New Earth. Like, when I think of New Earth, I think of like, we are already on this wavelength of like,
Mhm.
people are understanding, we're not shoving therapy out the window anymore. We're not like completely neglecting our mental health. Like, think about like the difference between millennials and like, the generations above us, like even Gen X and like the boomers. It's like
Mhm.
Mhm.
they were taught, like, they were all
Mhm.
smoking cigarettes, like they were all like drinking themselves to death. Like, I mean, I don't mean to sound like negative, but it's
Yeah.
like they had a
It's
very
true.
different way of coping with what they were
Yeah.
working us. Like, we're aware, we're like, no, like that's not cool. Like we're all like, people are getting sober, people are just like waking up to alternative ways of
Mhm.
healing, and like really wanting to work on
Mhm.
themselves, and really wanting to like think about someone other than just themselves. They're thinking about, how is this going to affect my kids and the future generations.
Yeah.
And to
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
that's what New Earth is about. It's just a new higher consciousness around, how is what my actions and how I'm taking care of myself and what I'm doing is going to affect the world in a different way.
Love that.
And how we're working with nature, how we're coming back to like our roots, like in different ways. Like, it's just a different way of living. And I think that the world is waking up, but I also think that we've got a long way to go, because people
Of course,
still
yeah.
believe everything that they hear on the news, and people
Yeah.
still
Oh my
have a
God. Plus
very they just
the
they just have a
AI.
very like narrow-minded
Yeah.
universe,
Again,
and
it's conditioning.
it's
And we're
just
only in the beginning of Neptune and Aries. So it's like we have what, 12, 13 years for that
Mhm,
waking up to
Oy, oy, oy,
happen.
oy.
mhm,
And some people it may take longer, but it's like, we keep hearing like, are you going to be on the right side of history with this? And it's like,
yeah,
I think about that going through Neptune and Aries. It's like when we get to the other side, like we're going to have so much more knowledge and awareness of our current time, of what has happened and what we've done and other people have done, and like you have to live with that and begin again. And also with that, like, Pisces is the 12th sign and Aries is the first sign in the zodiac. So it's like we are beginning again. It is this new birth, this new earth that we're walking
mhm,
into, and that we all get to like, give ourselves grace too, because I think all of us have been programmed by many things that like we are still unconditioning ourselves from, or
mhm, yeah,
realizing like, oh, man, I said that thing a couple years ago that was so cringy that's like haunting me, and like I realize now like I don't actually believe that anymore,
yeah,
or I was naive at that time that
Also, can we say, like, let's cancel culture because of that and give each other space to
yeah,
grow and not be afraid to become a better person and, like, try to
because
be
shame
better because
is really low vibration
yeah,
that's
I
gonna
don't think
keep this whole earth,
anyone's gonna
stuck.
want to grow and change if, they're worried
Exactly.
about being canceled for who they were before too.
Exactly. Yeah. I
amen,
think that's important because in as long as we are doing better with the knowledge that we've gained, and committing to learning more, or just being like I feel like we say that a lot on here. Like, what do we actually know? Like we're just growing and learning every single
mhm,
day, that like we really don't know anything. Like it's been almost 3 years since we started this podcast now, and like I kind of want to go back and re-listen, because I just know that like we've grown so much, and like who we've talked to, like these conversations have expanded.
Yeah, us
Like,
3 sitting here is so much different than even the first time
yeah.
that we all got to do this together, you know?
And honestly, like Danielle, you honestly are a big part of like why I understand astrology the way that I do now. Like I look at it, like I think getting to do the work that I do has helped me, but you kind of like made me realize that it's not so difficult
Yeah.
and that it's not this big confusing math equation, that like everything is related, and it actually is so much more simplified than like we've been made to think that astrology is. And
Mhm.
now it's like something clicked in me after talking to you, and like you just walked us through the houses. I'm like, "Oh, I get it now."
Yeah, you're very good at
I get it now. Like, you are a
simplifying.
great teacher, and
Oh,
Mhm.
thank you.
yeah, I'm grateful. I'm just grateful for you, and I'm grateful to be chatting with you again today.
Same.
It's awesome.
Thank you so
So, I agree also. This is really special.
Yeah.
There is another transit happening this week, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what is that?
So this is where, when I was saying I'm preparing everyone for the first 7 months, right? We
Uh-huh.
basically named all the other transits except for this last one, which is happening on July 7th. Uranus is a planet that takes 84 years to orbit around the sun.
Holy shit.
So
That's wild.
Uranus is about to leave Taurus and enter Gemini. This is one of those, like, I'm very curious. How talk about curious, haha, like, pun intended, Gemini, right? Very curious how this is gonna show up. I mean, naturally, you look back to the last time this happened, that was in the 1940s. So, World War
Mhm.
II, Hitler, Nazis. So we see that, right? Like, we know that.
Yeah.
But we also, like, we have to understand the word that's coming to me is just like the, I guess, potency, right? Like how
Mhm.
big it is that it's leaving Taurus, because Taurus is a sign that represents like traditions and
Mm.
things that are very kind of secure, feeling very like in place. And there's a predictability with Taurus. Like, it's like, yeah, like things are, the way they are, and like it's going to stay that way. Taurus also rules our money and how we like navigate, currency and all things around, financial matters. So Uranus, which is a planet of unpredictability, it's a disruptive planet. It like shakes things up so that we can change it for something evolved, something new, something different, something fresh, something innovative.
Mm.
So Uranus being in Taurus for the last, I think it was in 2018 was when that first started. So to me, like, LOL, when I think of things like, you know, cryptocurrency, like things like
Yeah.
that, where it was a very Uranus and Taurus thing to happen. But now, like, we're kind of at the edge. We're on like the last days of this. And all I can think of is what's going to come up around, you know, the banks or like financial matters,
Mhm.
right? Because that's where my mind goes.
Billionaires.
My mind goes to how we are used to on like just a regular everyday level. Like, this is how we work with our money, and this is like how we access things. And like, I'm just so curious, like, what do they have where it's going to be like, here's what we're doing next, right? I noticed that just from like the Medicaid and like the Medicare and like all of those
Yeah.
types of, like, that perspective really stood out to me, right? Where they're like
Yeah.
taking away a lot of the, again, norms around how people have access to things that they usually don't because of financial reasons, right?
Mhm.
And of course, then like the billionaires are also getting all these like benefits and tax cuts and all these things.
Mhm.
So it's like the money piece is definitely going to stand out to me this week. So if there's anything
Yeah.
around the media that I'm going to kind of like have you just keep an eye out for, it's just something around, money. And I'm not saying that from like a scarcity point of view. I'm saying it as like a,
Be
this
curious.
might be the future, right? Like, this
Yeah.
might be what we're actually needing to get used to next. It's not to say it can't change, because obviously
Mhm.
Uranus is a planet of change. It's going to enter Gemini, and I do feel like we can talk about what that transition means, but I do feel like we're going to have more innovative advancements to things of like
Yeah.
how we access things. So I just want to kind of put that out there, because I feel like I'm intuitively feeling something is going to come out. The other part is Uranus entering Gemini. Gemini is people. It's our social world. This rules our communications with one another. It rules how we're learning from each other. It's education. It's just teaching in all forms, writing. So I think of things like journalist. I think of things like the media. I think of things like, social media, even, all these different apps. Uranus entering Gemini is going to bring, so let's just put it from this point of view. Uranus is the planet ruler of Aquarius traditionally. So everything I said
Okay.
about Uranus earlier, or sorry, about Aquarius earlier, that's what Uranus is. It's very individual. It's very much like everyone's going to have their own rebellion around these things, right? We've already seen it even with himself. He literally posted, I don't know if you saw that, that he was bashing Fox News. And
Oh,
like,
yeah.
and it's like, this is what I'm saying. Like now these people who are like following his every word are going to be like, well, fuck Fox News. I'm not going to believe Fox News. Right. So it's almost like I feel like how we are accessing information around what's happening, the sources that we're getting things from, I think it's just going to continue to be like an individual thing, like people
Yeah.
like Truth Social being like a new thing, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I think like those types of things are going to continue to happen where people, I already noticed in the beginning of this year, I made a post about it, rebellion against social media. Like a lot of people left Facebook, left Instagram, left
Mhm.
because of like, his association with him. And
Mhm. Well, and
um
we have Blue Sky now as a
mhm,
Twitter X replacer too. Mhm.
mhm. So I think like there's going to be more of that in a way. I also think that since Gemini rules like different categories of people, like I think of it as like, I don't know, I'm giving an example. Like I have my Mars in Gemini and I remember my Sweet 16. And that's the best way I can describe Gemini when it comes to friendships and social circles, because I had a table for every different type of person that I was friends with, right? Like I had like the cheerleaders, I had the football team, I had like my orchestra friends, I had my friends I grew up with in my childhood. Like that's how I think of Gemini. It's like they're all in the same room, but they're just different, right? Like I can mingle with them because I have that
Mhm.
Gemini placement, and I can almost be like a chameleon and like fit who I'm talking with. But at the end of the day, they're very different. So I think that like Uranus will potentially bring more of that. Like I'm finding my people, even if we are very
Mm.
different and like we have to
Mhm.
accept each other for our differences. And I think that's why I said people are going to continue waking up. I love that you said, like, can we give people room to grow, that they make
Mhm.
mistakes? There's people who are coming out admitting that they feel like regret around voting for him. Like, so I do sense that like more of that will come up, like where we are gonna like learn how to coexist and like work with each other and like start to communicate with one another like differently, I would hope. But I also will say that, it's not gonna be the most grounded transit, like it's very
Truly up in the air.
it's mentally stimulating, like, so I think, I don't know, it's almost like the way I predicted it is like if people are rebelling off of social media, it's because like they want to meet their people differently. Like we're ready to like kind of just have a different level of like, how am I talking with my people, right? Like how am I
Mhm.
meeting my people locally, in person,
Yeah.
because I think like Uranus Gemini is going to start to be even more like things are faster and like AI is
Mhm.
crazy and technology is just like on a whole different speed that like we're actually not going to want to be on our phones and our devices like as much. And like I think
Thank God.
that because I feel education will also start to take like a very different route. Like, I think that, people who, never mind just homeschooling, but like I can see Uranus and Gemini as like a digital classroom. Like, we
Mm.
all have like
Mhm.
virtual headsets and we enter a new classroom, and it starts to feel like we're actually in
Interesting.
this podcast room together versus
Yeah.
through a computer. Like, it's going to start to
That could be
merge.
fun.
Yeah. Like it's gonna merge things in such a different way, and I think we're just going to, yeah, we're just gonna have to start, like, the way I see Uranus is like a planet of you have to keep up with the times. Like, this is like where things are adapting, things are changing, and people are going to have their own opinions around that. People are going
Yeah.
to start, like, maybe rebelling against it, and I
Mhm.
do sense people are gonna get louder. Like, people are going to continue coming together. People are going to get louder. And it's almost going to be so much noise that we're going to have to learn how to, on a mental health perspective, really ground with it, because it's going to
Mhm.
continue being more voices that are talking and shouting
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of what you just said about that has been building, like, since the pandemic. Like, we've really been in that era of questioning our news sources and, like, I even look back, like, right when the pandemic was starting and, like, where my beliefs stood, and again, it's, like, coming from a place of not really having all of the pieces, but just being so much more naive and, like, sharing things that I'm like that shocked me to learn, to then, like, realize, like, "Oh, I just shared from this account that, like, totally goes against other things that I actually believe," and, like, just not being so mindful
Fact
checking. Yeah, in the beginning, and, like, the pandemic
same.
really taught a lot of us to dig deeper, do your own personal research, make your own personal decisions about these things, like, what is right for you may not be right for everybody, but not just, like, regurgitating what you've been told or heard, and not everyone has learned that lesson, but I think that
True.
was, like, definitely a big thing for me of, like, I was just saying shit, and then I'm like, "Man, I sound like one of these wackadoos," and, like, I don't even know what I'm talking about. I'm just saying this thing that someone told me that I was like, "Wow, that's crazy," that it's, like, almost believable to realize, like, "Man, I'm fucking nuts right now," like, because I just don't know either, and, like,
Yeah.
it's kind of embarrassing to think about some of those things for sure, but it's like, but now I know better, and now I try to be a little bit more mindful, and maybe I'm not, like, going to everyone's Instagram and, like, scanning their grid right away to make sure, like, do I agree with other things they're sharing and posting about, but it is something I think about more. Someone once told me that, like, someone that they were kinda questioning, and they went to a person's profile of something that they shared and realized they were, like, super red hat, and I was like, "Oh, I, like, never really think about that when I see something that resonates with me that I'm sharing," but now I'm, like, so
Well,
aware of it in the world that we live in, because what we're sharing is a reflection of, like, our beliefs, you know?
I think that ties into kind of the pipeline you were talking about earlier with, like, even the Maha and, like, the crunchy moms, and, like, you would
Yeah.
think that it would be the opposite, like, people that want healthiness and, like, community and natural birth. Like, when he came into office, the amount, because I had my home birth planned, and so I followed all of these, like, natural birthers, the amount of them that were so stoked, I was just, like,
Oh,
shocked, and I had to
Yeah.
go unfollow all these people that were probably fearful of talking out until it happened, and then they were, like, on their high horse,
Yeah.
and it's like, it made no sense to me. It's just, like, the
Uh-huh.
same thing. I'm just like, "Oh, okay, well, that is not how I think."
I know, it's interesting. Found this astrologer. I don't remember the astrologer's name, but found this astrologer on TikTok. And on TikTok, you can see what they repost.
Mm,
So
mhm.
Yes,
on
love that.
right, love that, because on the astrologer's page, I'm like, oh, I love this person's point of view, all the things.
Yeah.
He was also really nice to look at, so that's cool. And of course, I'm like, okay, hot. Like, I forgot his name, but it was like, okay, I see you. And then all of a sudden, I see the repost is all MAGA related, and I was like,
Ugh.
oh God, like it was the quickest unfollow.
Yeah.
But I agree,
'Cause
like,
in your mind, those 2 things don't align. How are you like, a hot astrologer, and then you like that? Like, that makes no sense to me. So, it's, like, something I wouldn't even think about.
Exactly.
literally, I
Mhm.
People
know
are so weird.
it was pretty disheartening. It's so interesting. So, one thing I will say is, just kind of piggybacking off something we already discussed, this is a foreshadowing year. So,
Mhm.
because, there's all these big transits that are happening, I will say that, we're in the summer energy now, but leading into, like, even September on, like, we're thinking the last 4 months of the year, we are going to kind of, I don't want to say regress, but I feel like we're going to kind of like revisit. That's the best way. We're going to revisit some things that have already started, and we are going to, like, come back again next year. So I just want to give people that perspective. I know I kind of like touched on it when I was like, this isn't even real, because it's like, we have to remember, like, although there are definitely some things that are in motion, in place already, there is still time, absolutely, for us to like really not just not take the L just yet, okay? Like, we have to see that some things may appear, and I think that's another huge part of Neptune. Let's not forget that Neptune can bring rose-colored glasses. It can bring this illusion, very Wizard of Oz, like you said, right? Where it's
Mhm.
like, okay, it's a big show, like there's a lot of like, things that he's saying, but at the same time, like, what's actually happening? What's reality?
Yeah.
What's truth? So please be discerning. Like, don't believe everything you hear and like take it as like this is permanent or this is definite or this is the only thing that's going to happen from this point forward. Like, there's still time for us to revolt and do our thing, right? Because we're
Mhm.
not going to just like let this person be a complete dictator. Like, there's just no way.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do sense that with Jupiter in Cancer, especially, this is going to be from June of 2025 until June of 2026. We have this beautiful year of Jupiter in Cancer that's going to ingress in really great ways that I see that as like when we're talking about like women, especially like kind of coming together, like I think of the mothers that did get separated from their children, and or like maybe there's, of course, like actual people who are like going back to their home country and all these things. Like, I see this as like we are going to connect with them and help them in other ways, even if like for some reason um, I see it as like, let's say people do relocate. Let's say people are going to, I know a lot of people who are moving to Mexico right now, ironically, right? I feel like there's going to be healing circles in those places too, in their own
Mhm.
countries. You know what I mean? So,
Mhm.
like, this is where when we expand outside of just what's happening in America and we remember like humanity as a whole and how we are as a world coming
Mhm.
together right now. It's not just what's happening with the protest in America. There's people protesting in Europe, protesting in
Yeah.
different countries.
Well, and
So,
everyone protesting for Gaza and like the other wars happening fucking honestly feels like everywhere right now. But
Mhm.
I think
mhm.
that's another thing that's like the grief and despair that's bringing people together.
Exactly. I think that's where we have to, as best as we can, like again, have faith that people will do good when it comes to like helping others,
Mhm.
even though I feel like as humans, like we're just like we're so angry that like this is
Yeah.
even happening at
Yeah.
all. But we also can see like the other side of that, where it's like, okay, through tragedy, through trauma, through, like you said, survival, we also come together and we're going to help each other through this.
And there's
So,
more of us than there are of the bad people. There are more good people than there are bad. And just to remember that all the time is like you might feel powerless because they quote unquote like have more power, but they don't. There's power in numbers. And if we all come together, change will happen.
Yeah.
I'm going to make myself cry, but
yeah.
like it's true.
No, absolutely. I think of the footage between the 11 plus million people who were protesting on his birthday versus like however many
Yeah.
thousands of people that were a part of that parade. It's like that was a very visual representation of how much more there are of us than there are of
Yeah.
them. And so we have to just like really let things unfold over time. If he wants to burn himself to, he's basically burning himself to the ground. Like, he was the one
Mhm.
who went off the rails in the beginning. And like now, are there people who are going to continue to like live in that cult, mentality of just like
Yeah.
living off every word that he says? Sure.
Of
But then there's
course.
also going to be the people who are going to eventually be like, this is not what I voted for. This isn't what I
Yeah.
signed up for.
Snapping out of
And,
it.
they're going to get out of it. So, yeah. So, with that, I will say this year, there is going to continue to be a reflection of our values, a reflection of how we are, being, I'm hearing like compassionate, like with like
Mhm.
each other in some ways as well, because I feel like, for instance, last week I had this girl pretty much admit to me, like, that she was wrong and like why she was wrong, and I was like, hey, at this
Wow.
Wow.
point I really commend you for your courage to
Yeah.
even say that to me. And also, like, this doesn't matter. The more the merrier. Like, if you're going to be
Yeah.
someone who really believes that, like, even if you're not involved or protesting, it doesn't matter. Like, that perspective changes the world.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like, this is what I mean. I'm sending compassion. I'm hoping that more people will, really do their part in some ways. But when
And
it
being
comes
wrong is okay, and you are allowed to change your mind, and don't have shame in being wrong, like, don't double down just because you wanna be right.
Yep, and I think that's another part of the Aries energy that could be the ego, or, it's
Mhm.
just
Mm,
like
Exactly.
mhm.
it's a lot of that, like, double downing on it even though like, I shouldn't stand by this, right?
Mhm.
Uh I think people are definitely they're gonna have their ego deaths, and I think again, as healers and people who were literally born in this timeline, we all have a very unique purpose in how we are showing up, and that's a part of what I'm supporting people with, especially those who are leaders in the online space, because I know that I weeded out a lot of the other people. Like, they know for sure, like, that's not what I'm going. It's not to say that I'm
Yeah.
not going to help you. It's just to say that, like, those aren't my values. And I think it was very known on both sides if they were going to work with each other or not. So I've been helping a lot of, people know how to speak up if they feel they need to speak up. Like, a lot of people who feel this desire to talk about it, but also
Mhm.
feeling conflicted on if it's going to ruin their brand or if that's even a part of what they're supposed to
Exactly.
be doing.
It's
So
even
I've
more
really,
important. It's even more
Yeah.
important, and if you lose followers or clients or whatever, like, those aren't your people.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
Speak
and
your
yeah.
fucking truth.
I think people like I myself am looking for the people who
100%.
share my values, and I believe that the clients and the people that are meant to be a part of what I'm creating and working towards and working with and healing with are the people who are looking for the people
You.
who
Yeah.
resonate with their values too. And
Hmm.
yeah, I feel like way more empowered than I ever have to be a little bit more open in that regard.
Simple.
And I think, 5 years ago I was a little more shy but I was also learning and what
Yeah.
what my values actually were like
Hmm.
wholeheartedly fully at that time. And now I know where I stand and
Also, in your mid-30s, like, it's not like you
yeah,
know what I mean? So that's okay to still be learning
exactly.
what your fucking morals and values are. You can do that into your 60s and 70s. Like,
Exactly.
you can
It's
always be
never too
exploring
late.
that.
Yeah.
Amen. Yeah. So just kind of like going off that, I feel like, just ways that people can always continue to connect with me is through either, if you want to book a reading, I do
I
feel
do.
like, again, personally, it's still going to influence your life very specifically.
100%.
How these different transits are playing out really depends on the houses that they're landing in and just like your own natal chart
Mhm.
placements. And that will give more of a direction with your life path and with your timeline. So I've definitely continued to support my clients in that way because I feel like that's the best for them to have clarity around
Mhm.
how they're navigating these big cycles. And then, of course, there's also my membership. And I do have my membership on like, a monthly basis. There's a lot of the transit knowledge in there. I do host workshops that talked about Jupiter and Cancer, talked about Saturn and Aries. I will have a Uranus and Gemini one. So, all of that is included with the membership. And that's where they can not only understand what's happening on a collective level and how these transits are kind of tying in, but also on a personal level, what does this mean for me and how can I work with this for the month ahead and all of that. So,
So
so
cool.
yeah, so there's definitely multiple ways to just be informed and just have
Mhm.
more of that connection with astrology.
And where can people find you and the information to work with you?
Yeah, my Instagram is Align with Danielle. When it comes to my Facebook, it's just my first and last name, Danielle Rosado. And I always create updates on there as well. But my website is daniellerosado.com, and that has everything that you need to know to book a session or to join the membership or any other way if you wanted to go a little deeper and work more one to one. But those are like the two
Awesome.
main ways that I work with people.
I
Yeah.
feel like this whole conversation, like it's very real and there's a lot of possibilities. And I think it could also create some like unsettling for people too, like learning a little bit more about this. And so I would love one if you wouldn't mind like pulling like a collective card energy for us, but also if you have any like personal messages that are coming through your channel of like something that we could do to like really take care of ourselves and, live moment to moment through these like big constant changes. Like, what would you tell all of us, the collective, yeah, how to take care of ourselves, how to just to be present?
Yeah, I think that that's been the main message this year is I loved when you said earlier that like you don't know everything, right? And
Yeah.
so that's kind of been a huge part of I think where people feel a little not secure, right? Because
Mhm.
they're like, well, I don't know what's next. And if
Yeah.
things feel unclear, then they don't feel confident in the actions that they're taking. And to me, I think that there's actually a really beautiful gift in not knowing
Mhm.
everything
Mhm.
because to me that isn't that's like a blank canvas, right? It's like this open road where there is no like exact destination. Like it gets to flow, it gets to be intuitive, and it gets to come from a place where it's more of your relationship with spirit, your relationship with real presence of like how am I meant to move today, how am I meant to really meet myself today and connect with myself today and not necessarily follow a linear plan all the time,
Mhm.
but actually like kind of make up the rules as I go. And I think that, for those who are a little bit more fixed with their chart and like desire, like they actually don't they're challenged by that more like intuitive go with the flow nature. I do think that it's going to be a little bit more of like a unsettling energy for them, but I also think that it's going to be very healing for them to let go of
Mm.
expectations and also to just like if we can all collectively if I see it as a way that we can actually tune into the world that we want to see and like the life that we want to have and we know that like people create really incredible things, manifest really incredible things really fast. Like people quantum leap very
Mhm.
quickly. And to me, it's just from the like pure trust that they have with themselves and with that like soul's knowing that like they can do it and that they're willing to do it, but they're very open to how it happens. And I think that's the part where I just want us to remember like things can shift very rapidly. We saw it, it was evident, but things can also shift very rapidly in the direction that you desire to go. And it's really up to you on how you're grounding and really like allowing yourself to unplug if you need to, cleanse your energy from like all the collective fear and all the like constant things that are happening. Like it's okay for you to create your own intention of how do you wish for things to be from this point forward. Use your gifts, use your magic, use your spell, like your spell work. Like if you're a witch, like you get to use this
Yeah.
for the collective, for
Yeah.
peace, for us to come together. So like to me, it's really just about like remembering like the power of the collective, the power of our mind, and the power of like how much our power of perception, letting it completely feel like things are out of our control. Because if anything, they want to control us because they
Yeah.
know that we have that much power,
Yeah.
right? So that's where the empowerment really comes through because it's like if the power of your mind, the power of your intentions, the power of
Mhm. Totally.
I love it. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. I appreciate it. I love you too. Thank you.
And so it
Ooh,
is.
love it.
Okay.
I mean, I think that was beautiful.
Yeah, that was
You are the
amazing.
card.
I know. I'm like, we just need like this yummy message, this guidance to like send us off with, you know, that more optimistic viewpoint, because I think we can be in reality and feel the duality of the world, but like if we can find the optimism, then that is what gives us the hope and the energy to move forward and to make a change, I think, too. It's
Yeah.
not that toxic positivity, but like, we can flip the script.
Yeah.
We can
Absolutely.
change our reality. Also, I have to say, like, this doesn't happen for me all the times. I've been tapping more into this natural gift that I've always had, but I can see your aura, and it is like so fucking stunning and white and yellow and like this baby blue color, and it is just shining off of you like as you were channeling and going, and my eyes and mind and body are like blown right now just watching you.
Cool.
It's very beautiful. You are in alignment. Truly, you are aligned with Danielle. You are doing what you're supposed to be doing in this world, and I know it's helping so many. And
This message needed to come through
Yeah.
today so bad.
Big
Like,
time.
I can't. It was perfect. Every single thing that came through today, I feel like, is exactly what people need to hear.
Totally.
And I hope everybody hears it.
Yeah.
Everyone listen. Come here.
Awesome.
Thank you, Danielle.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was amazing.
We'll bring you back again
I know.
sometime
We
and
love you.
touch base again. Okay. This episode has been produced by my husband, Curtis Burgess.
Make sure to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Waking Up the Witch.
And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please email us at wakingupthewitch@gmail.com.
And don't forget to head over to the link in our bio on Instagram for all the ways to connect with both Amber and Taylor. And go to moonbeeswellness.com for all your self-care and witchy news.
We love you. Bye.
Bye.
Ow.